Well, in a shocking turn of events, a Lakers trade target now becomes a Lakers free agent target, that player being Deandre Ayton. According to Shams Charania, Deandre Ayton will be hitting the buyout market, finalizing a contract buyout with the Trailblazers and therefore becoming a free agent only 48 hours before free agency opens. And well, for a center-needy team like the Lakers, that has the entire Laker fanbase and pretty much the entire NBA world pointing him to the purple and gold. Yes, he can go to whatever team he wants to, he is an unrestricted free agent, but if you try connecting the dots here, I think a whole lot of them do point to the purple and gold here, whether you like it or not. And believe me, there definitely are people that don't like it, definitely are reasons to potentially not like it, but there are also plenty to like it, especially if they could get him at a very good price, which is definitely a realistic possibility. And well, with the Lakers potentially losing Dorian Finney-Smith, him officially opting out of his player option and therefore testing the open market, that might be an opportunity to give his salary via the full mid-level exception, which they would get if Finney-Smith would leave their team or potentially could use anyway, using that contract to sign Deandre Ayton. So with that in mind here, would it be worth it? Is he a player worth targeting again after two teams have given up on him, or at the bare minimum having issues with another team? The two teams that he's only played for up until this point, both of which he has had issues with and now has had to depart on not so great terms. Is this more of a green flag, or is it a red flag with Deandre Ayton? We'll talk about that and try to break it all down here. And well, to begin, talking about Deandre Ayton, he is a former number 1 overall draft pick, the number 1 overall pick from the 2018 NBA draft, of course going to the Phoenix Suns, playing with their team for about half a decade, growing with them and even making it to an NBA championship, or to an NBA finals rather, losing in the NBA finals back in 2021, a COVID championship. But he did show some promise and at one point was thought to be an emerging top 5 to top 10 NBA center, but has since then kind of fallen on hard times, or at least in regard to a few issues kind of off the court. I mean, when it comes down to Ayton, it's never been a problem of talent or what he can do on the court. It's simply about a combination of commitment, locker room issues, chemistry issues, defensive commitment, and all around a lot of more mentality stuff rather than actual talent and ability on the court. Not only that though, but staying on the court has been an issue for him too. I mean, not nearly as bad compared to his now former backup Robert Williams III, but also has been an issue for Deandre Ayton. Last season, for example, only appeared in 40 NBA games, less than half the NBA season. Back in 23-24, only playing in 55 games, and per season throughout his career, only averaging roughly 56 games played per season. So yes, it does happen to be an issue with him. Combine the health with then the off-court issues, the commitment on defense, and simply the mentality at times too. There definitely are some red flags here with Deandre Ayton. Can't overlook that despite the immense talent on the court, and the fact that he is only about to turn 27, which could potentially be a good fit for the Lakers timeline and kind of updated timeline with Luka Doncic. They're looking for that center that's roughly under the age of 28, kind of comparable to what the Mavericks had with Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford around Luka Doncic. Two guys that would fit his timeline and two guys they could rotate between and fit well on the court with him. That kind of might represent Deandre Ayton in some ways, both in regard to the age and the skill set on the court. But again, do the red flags outweigh the green flags? That's up for debate here. But getting more into that talent and what he does offer on the court when he's on the court and committed on the court, he does have plenty to offer. Everything in regard to offensive ability and everything he can do on offense is a talented low post scoring threat. I mean, that's kind of a problem with him though, as he does want the ball more than teams tend to give it to him and revolve him in their offense. But when he does get it, he is a very talented low post scoring threat. He even has a pretty solid mid-range jump shot, and that's kind of a dying art in today's game. Does have that in his bag too. Then on top of that, he is a good lob threat. I mean, not an elite vertical athlete, but definitely has good timing, good hands, and definitely can be a lob threat in the pick and roll game, which is obviously a gigantic priority for Luka Doncic, as he absolutely loves to play with that archetype. And then even more so offensively, even playing off the ball and being okay in the dunker spot, but even more than that, being a great offensive rebounder. Last season, grabbing 3.1 offensive rebounds in only 30 minutes per game, translating to nearly 4 per 36 minutes. Very impressive, and that's always been a very good thing for Deandre Ayton. Whether you're talking about offensive, defensive, or simply rebounding in general, Ayton's always been pretty good and will continue to be too. Throughout his entire career, has averaged roughly 12 rebounds per 36 minutes, definitely above average here, and once again, another good thing you can point to with him, and probably the most consistent thing with him too, as I wouldn't say the same thing for his defense. I mean, it definitely can be a strong point for him when he commits to doing it, and depending on the stat you look at, was either a very good defender last season or roughly around average. Per defensive BPM rating, for example, he was a negative 0.4. You know, if you look at a different stat, like I said, like defensive BPM, was in the positive categories. If you look at a website like B-Ball Index, then it would point to him being a very good defender. So it kind of depends on what you look at here, or if you want to simply use the eye test. Once again, very up and down, showing some great defensive talent at times and some great defensive instincts, but also appearing pretty lazy at times too. So kind of take your pick between him, and depending on which version of him you want to talk about. Then for one final bad thing with him, which I'll follow up with one final good thing, as I don't like to end on a negative note. But for the bad thing, Portland was 5.1 points worse with Ayton on the court last season. Also with him on the court, they were a negative 6.8, so definitely not a good thing with him. If your team is consistently getting outscored and not being in the net positive with you on the court, even if you're not playing for a good team, that's not a very good sign of your overall production and contribution to their team too, especially for kind of an up and down team like Portland. But then for the good thing, we actually can point to his postseason performance. Doesn't have a whole lot of time there apart from that 2020-21 NBA run, but throughout that he did play extremely well, averaging roughly 16 points per game, nearly 12 rebounds per game in 36 minutes per game, finishing at a 65.8% clip, very impressive, even playing some good defense and arguably the best defense of his entire career, and that was on the biggest stage for him. So that is a good thing with Deandre Ayton, showing that when committed and even turning against really good competition, and again at that big stage, he can perform well on both ends of the court. And overall here with Deandre Ayton, you're getting a very talented offensive big, one that's still in the prime of his NBA career, or should be in its prime anyway, only about to be 27 in roughly half a month here. Then on top of that, very good rebounder, good pick and roll partner, good lob threat, and does have a lot of qualities that would fit well with Luka Doncic. But then comes the consistency. Not so consistent defensively, not so consistent simply on the court, and committing to the game plan, especially if he's not heavily involved in the game plan, that can be a problem with him, and again, kind of point to that mentality with him. However, if we're not talking about a trade, which we're obviously not anymore, only talking about signing him and getting him for a fairly cheap price, I think the pros definitely do outweigh the cons here with Deandre Ayton. Getting him for possibly the full mid-level exception would be an absolute bargain for him, and following him taking a contract buyout but still getting a bunch of that money, I think he would be willing to take it. Yes, that would mean kind of trading Dorian Finney-Smith, aka letting him walk to get Deandre Ayton, but for how badly the Lakers need a center and their current options on the open market, which are not that great, I think it probably is their current best route that they could take without making a trade and possibly giving up a ton of assets for a guy like Walker Kessler. So if you ask me, I am on board with it. No, I didn't like it too much to a trade and giving up legitimate trade assets for him, and for a pretty big risk in my opinion. But if we're simply talking about signing him and for a fairly cheap price, then I definitely am on board with it. Between the Lakers' desperate need for a center, between the skill set that would theoretically fit pretty well with Luka Doncic, and LeBron for that fact too, fitting his timeline, what he wants around him offensively, what he can be when committed defensively, there's a lot to like about Deandre Ayton if they can get the best version of him on the court, and obviously keep him on the court too. But with all of that being said, what do you guys think? How do you feel about Deandre Ayton? Would you like the addition of him to their team? Do you think it would be worthwhile to essentially trade Dorian Finney-Smith, letting him walk to sign Deandre Ayton? Would you like that? Would you not like that? And if you wouldn't go that route, what other route would you take that might be better for them? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then I'll greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.